there, writers. Welcome back to the HC Publisher. I'm Holly, and in this week's video of how to write a book, we're going to be looking at how to organize and set up the chapters in your book in a sequence that makes sense. If you're new, thanks for joining us, and if you're returning, welcome back. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button below, like, comment, and share. Okay, now, if you remember last week's video, we went in and we paid attention to how to write those extended action arcs over a series of chapters. And today we're picking up right where that leaves off, which is transitioning into the next part in the book. And as we do that, we're going to look at how to organize and set up those chapters in a way that fits with your book and allows the reader some breathing time, as well as pulling them into the plot and what's going to happen next. I'm going to show you examples from the book I'm currently working on, which is the Gifted series, book 2. All right, let's dive in.
The very first thing that I'm doing is going into my notebook and I'm recalling where the book is currently. In the chapter I finished, the characters just arrived in Canada after being chased by the government group called Trident. They made a narrow escape, and so I'm writing that down first on the notebook. From there, I'm thinking about what I need to have happen to move the plot along. We just had all of that action, so I'm going to slow it down and add some details with the new setting, which, remembering from the past video on descriptive details, you'll recall is important whenever there's a scene change. After that, I'm going to focus on how to add in details that will be needed for the next action scene later in the book, including some foreshadowing about Elisa's gifts and how she can practice them, as well as working towards fulfilling the prophecy. I go ahead and think about introducing a new character here with the setting change. I put that on the notebook, as well as remembering I also need to show the other side of events with Trident, the group that was after them, in order to give the reader more full background story and understanding of the whole story from all sides. Then I go onto the computer and I look in my electronic version at some of the planning documents I have saved, like we went over in the first 2 videos of this series. From that, I jot down the information of where the story is going to go and those 5 major plot points. After I do that, I go ahead and type in the new information with the character I'm adding in, which is an indigenous character who also has gifts and will help Elisa. Once I do that, I come back to my notebook, and as you can see, my notes are not linear. They begin in linear fashion, but then I draw arrows and thought bubbles that connect different points. From here, I'm laying out the next 4 chapters in a sequence that makes sense. In my book, I use alternating perspectives where different characters tell the story from first-person point of view. Looking closer, you can see I've decided to have Trident go first, showing what happens after they lose Elisa and Mikkel and can't get them. Then I'll go to Mikkel, Elisa, back to Trident. The Trident chapters will be much shorter because they are not the main characters. From here, I go onto my electronic version and I set up the chapters by typing in the title as who the chapter is going to be about or who's telling the story at that point. Once I do that, I just jot down a couple lines, which isn't the full synopsis or the small summary that we do before a chapter, but it's a good starting point. And all of those notes from the notebook that I just talked about, I write down, as well as any information. For instance, here you can see I write Trident after losing Mikhail and Elisa, but I don't go into too much detail. That way there's still room for me to create and develop the story as I write through visualization. Once I do that, I put it in bold again so that we can contrast from the drafting that I'll begin to do. I go to the next chapter over on the side, and where it says 7, I replace that with the next chapter name being Mikhail. Again, I repeat what I just did by typing a line or two, not the full synopsis that we went over in the second video of the series. This will be before we put that information in. And again, this is just a way that will help organize the next few chapters so that I can spend more time drafting and move quickly through them instead of spending a lot of time planning and thinking about where the story's headed next between each one. So this work on the front end is an example of how it's going to allow you to have more output on a given day when you're actually drafting. I again go ahead and bold it so it contrasts and add another chapter by clicking the plus button next to manuscript, doing the same thing for the next two. I know you're probably wondering, what about the higher conscious practice? What did I use? Well, today when I was writing, I went ahead and fixed some tea before I got started. So here I'm showing you the process of how I fix the tea. And this is a higher conscious practice that helps with clarity, awareness, energy improvement, and depending on whatever your preference of tea is, it will change a little in the benefits. I added in hyssop and Paris blend. So continue watching if you're interested in using this higher conscious practice. I always find tea to help me stay focused, relaxed, and it just tastes good. And that's it for this week's video of how to write a book with the HC Publisher. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.